Any questions on that point? Do you want to come over and talk? All right.
Hello.
I'll give you a bit of time.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
It's a quick one. I didn't come prepared for this. I should have brought my notes and I didn't bring the right...
Well, I'm clearly not prepared because I didn't know you were going to have this conversation, so we're all right.
I'm just fact-checking something. I already fact-checked with young Bob and one of Tommy Robinson's followers, which was a speech that was made at the Tommy Robinson rally on free speech.
Yeah.
Where the guy who led the haka,
Yeah.
he got up and he made a speech where he effectively went, we don't think that you should have freedom of expression of other religions in this country. It should only be Christianity.
Yeah.
You should ban Mosh, you should ban temples, etc. Yeah? Now, I think that was abhorrent. I don't think it was indicative of a lot of people on that march, so I don't think most of the people supported that idea.
Yeah.
But that idea went too far. I fact-checked with young Bob and he said no, he doesn't stand by it. I just wonder where you stood on that. I would hope that you support freedom of speech of other religions in this country as well.
Right,
Is that reasonable?
So, ladies and gentlemen, I am not a free speech advocate in the same way that maybe Tommy Robinson is, or maybe some of the closer circle of Tommy Robinson is. I don't believe in making a cult out of free speech. Christianity doesn't teach free speech. Christianity teaches that there is a thing called blasphemy. Christianity doesn't practice free speech in our churches. You can't just get up and say anything you want. I do believe in a greater degree of free speech than, say, a National Socialist or a Communist does. I believe that people should be free to talk about any political questions and argue politics and argue about how we solve political, economic, social or cultural problems. But I don't believe, as a society, that we should tolerate ideologies that are trying to that blaspheme against our God, or are trying to reintroduce slavery, establish cousin marriage, establish child marriage. I believe that we should have some limits on speech. And that those limits should be defined by Christianity. So I'm not an absolute free speech person. Does that mean that I think that criticism of Christianity should be silenced? No. But I don't believe that you can just walk into a church and desecrate a church and then say free speech. I don't believe that if the state was Christian, that it should allow, where it owns the building, blasphemies. But I do believe that if you're not a Christian and you're in your own property or something you own, the state should have nothing to do with what you say. But if you're in a place owned by the state, in a Christian state, blasphemy should not be tolerated.
What?
So that's generally my position. I'm in favour of a blasphemy law.
Okay, hang on. Wait. Sorry.
Just ignore her because she just interrupts. Just keep going.
Okay. I tried to ask a very specific question. You gave a very broad answer. Fine. I just want to be clear. Would you crack down on freedom of expression of other religions in this country to the extent that they would want to advocate for people to join them if they did it in a respectful manner? If they weren't inciting violence, and if they weren't misrepresenting, reality in a fundamental way.
Yeah.
Is that okay with you?
So if they were blaspheming in the public sphere against Christ, I would seek for that to be stopped.
Okay.
If they were advocating for their religion in their own mosque, fine, let them do it. If you're foolish enough to get dragged into their dawah, you have my pity, but I believe that you should be free to have that kind of conversation.
Okay.
But if they were doing dawah in the street, and as part of that dawah, they were seeking to justify any or all of the following, if they were practicing takfirism, for instance, I would make that illegal.
Your camera a bit?
If they were calling people kuffar, I would make that illegal.
Excuse me?
Right. If they were saying that Christians believe in three gods, I would make that illegal.
Excuse me.
If they were saying you Christians believe in a Trinity and I don't believe in a Trinity,
then
I
you're
think
biased.
the Trinity is false, then I
okay,
think
then I wanna
fine,
say on
that's
camera
fair
you're biased.
conversation.
No,
But if they're lying about
you're on our
Christianity,
platform.
then I simply do not want to tolerate people lying
wait,
about the
no,
Christian faith in public.
Okay, right. Okay, I'll kick back on that. If you're not going to let them blaspheme against you, then logically, fairness, you shouldn't be able to blaspheme against them. Yes?
Right. So the question is...
Sorry, I've got one sub-point now, I'm sorry. One of the camera crews here is this guy is deliberately not
Soko
including me
Films.
in the frame. Soko
He's
Films.
brilliant.
Okay, well, he may be brilliant, but he's not brilliant to the point when he can
doesn't
show what's
fund me or
happening,
support
okay?
me, but he is a good channel to subscribe
fine.
to.
For some reason...
Subscribe to Soko
Hi
Films.
there. Hi there. Okay, for some reason, he only wants to film Bob and not show the actual debate, which I think is biased journalism. Hi there. So do you want to turn the camera so it's lip sync with me?
What happened to freedom
So
of
you
expression?
can't- No.
What happened to freedom
what
of
happened to
expression?
accurate-
What happened? He's here
accurate
talking about
journalism?
free speech
These
and
three
freedom of
camera crews are
expression,
filming us both.
but now he's
This
trying to
particular guy
dictate
is
what
only
Soko
filming
Films
one
does.
guy. I
And this is the
personally
perfect
believe-
embodiment
Yeah.
of the duplicitous
No, this is
hypocrisy
bullshit.
of these
This
kind of
is-
universalist
gentlemen,
progressives.
This is clearly
I want freedom of
non-biased
expression,
media,
but if you don't
media,
express yourself
Soko
in a way
Films
that I
is
agree
biased.
with, I'm
You're gonna
going
have
to
edit this
condemn
out
you,
because
ladies
you
and
can't- you haven't
gentlemen.
got the
Do you
balls.
want to come back to the argument or move on?
I want to know.
Come back to the argument or move
we
on.
have another
Come
argument.
back to the argument or move on, because otherwise I'm going to get on with my day.
Okay, you watch him edit this out.
Come
fine.
back to your
on
argument
blasphemy,
or move on.
Okay, notice how they are now dictating the media, which is
Oh,
bad
dear.
journalism. Okay, that's on camera on
10,
three camera crews.
9,
Blasphemy.
There we go.
We're on blasphemy.
Right.
I made my point about media.
7,
Blasphemy.
Right.
This is what it's like with a dictator, gentlemen.
6,
5. Blasphemy, Bob. So
Go
back
on.
to blasphemy. So if they're not allowed to be rude about your religion, then it's only fair that you're not allowed to be rude about theirs.
Right, so let me explain. Do I believe that
You're full of it.
Christians should be
No, he's full of shit.
rude about Islam? As a normative practice, no, I do not. I don't think Christians should desecrate the Quran. I don't think that Christians should go out of their way to insult Muhammad unnecessarily. But, ladies and gentlemen, does Islam and the God of Islam deserve protection in law? No, it does not. Let me explain why we should have protections in law for the truth. Because these are the tributaries from which we draw our values and our beliefs. And if we scorn them, and if we mock them, and if we subject them to ridicule, what you ultimately do is you poison the well that is feeding the soul. And a soul that is poisoned becomes filled with poison and becomes ill. And that's exactly what we've seen in the West. Since the rise of liberalism, Christianity has been attacked, mocked, ridiculed and abused, and now the West is ill in its soul. It is dying in its soul because the water from which it drank has been poisoned. And that is why God in his wisdom institutes a blasphemy law, which is why I believe in a blasphemy law. But blasphemies are there to protect truth. Islam is not true and therefore deserves no protection in law. It only needs
that's a good
the
3
protection
minutes. Sharing a
of
conversation,
good
Bob.
taste,
Right, we heard his
ladies
point.
and
So his
gentlemen.
point would seem to be, correct me if I misinterpret
I
it,
will.
that you should have something of a double standard here whereby
No.
Christianity... So do you think Islam
is not true,
I
and
don't care
therefore
if
the
it's true.
standards are not the
I
same.
don't care. You don't get to dictate what's true. We collectively get to decide
No, we
that in a
don't get
public
to
forum.
collectively decide what's right
gentlemen.
and wrong.
Okay, what we seem to have here now
You asked
is
me to correct you.
somebody... Yeah, but you're wrong.
No.
I believe you're wrong.
You're just asserting that.
Okay. Here's the
You're
deal.
just asserting
Here's the
that.
deal. We're both just
No,
asserting.
we're just asserting
we're
that.
both just asserting.
Right.
The point is, the audience can decide. It's not about me convincing him or him convincing me. It's about the audience looking at this, saying who's being objective, who's being fair. I'm advocating you should have equality of religion in a free-speaking democracy. So whatever is good for Christianity should be good for Islam. You can set the bar where you want.
Except that liberals don't do that, do they?
It would seem to. I'm not a liberal. Okay?
Liberals don't do
Fine.
that.
Get a liberal on and debate them. You're debating me right now.
You're a universalist.
I'm a universalist.
Exactly.
That's a spiritual position.
Universalism is a spiritual expression of liberalism.
Excuse me. Do not debate me as a liberal. I'll be a liberal if I choose
You're a universalist.
to be. Okay, again, that's your opinion.
Universalist. You just said you're a universalist.
Again, I'm a universalist, which
You interrupted me. Would you like to have a timed conversation?
Okay, I'd love a timed conversation.
Right. Would
Go
someone
for it.
like to time
Get a
us,
clock.
please?
Moderator.
We need a moderator. Would someone like...
Anyone got a clock?
We just need some...
Actually, why
I trust
would I-
him. He's fine.
Why would I...
He's not a Christian.
Okay. And for the record, Bob is condoning one of the camera crews not filming my face.
He's in favour of freedom of expression, but now he's condemning it.
Huh?
You do know you're in video.
Then why didn't the guy just say so? I said, okay, fine.
It was more hilarious watching you throw your toys out of the pram, that's why.
No, from this angle.
Right, we're going to do a
you could've
timed...
just said you're
Bro,
on it, okay?
are you focused?
Am I focused?
Please either just go away or stay focused to the conversation.
I'm completely unfocused.
Right, so we're going to do time. Do you want to go first or second?
No, I'll go first.
Right. Give 3 minutes, 3 minutes.
I
yeah?
don't need 3
You're
minutes.
right,
No, I don't need 3 minutes
All right.
for the minute. I'm just
All right,
posing.
let's
I'm
do
posing-
2 minutes, 2 minutes. 2 minutes, 2 minutes.
We
When
don't need-
on his first word, start the clock.
I don't
Start the clock.
I don't need 2 minutes, okay? I'm simply asking the question, does Bob believe in equal freedom of expression in this country for all religions? So whatever rule you make for one religion, you should make the same rule for another religion. That's a very simple question, okay? Now, when he answers it, I'd like you to pay attention to how much of the time he spends addressing that specific question the way I worded it, and how much time he then spends elaborating and preaching on a wider platform. I hope he will minimize the latter. That will be good conduct and conducive to the best debate. I finished very early, off you go.
Right, I'll use up the remainder of his time. How much time do we have
Remainder
left?
of my time.
It was 30, so 2 minutes 30 you'd have.
2 minutes 30. I'll use up the remainder of his time
gonna
and my
use the
2 minutes.
remainder of
Are you going to
my
interrupt
time.
me the whole 2 minutes?
You're going to nick my time.
Are you going to interrupt me the
nick
whole...
my time.
Are you ready? Right.
Ready?
Go. So, ladies and gentlemen, I believe in equality under the law. That means that everyone should be judged by the same law equally. In other words, if a Christian blasphemes the Christian faith, he should receive the exact same punishment as a Jew, a Muslim, a Universalist, a communist or a Nazi who blasphemes the Christian faith. But I do not believe that all religions are true, which is the assumption behind his argument. He's assuming that Islam and Christianity are equally valid. They are not equally valid. Christianity does not teach the reintroduction of slavery. Islam does. Christianity doesn't teach cousin marriage. Islam does. Christianity doesn't teach child marriage. Islam does. Christianity doesn't teach religious apartheid. Islam does. Christianity doesn't teach killing apostates. Islam does. These are not the same. Therefore, they cannot be equal. Two things that are different are not equal. His whole argument is based on their assumed equality, ladies and gentlemen. And so my argument is completely consistent. Because I am rejecting the premise behind his question. I am asserting that there is a truth, not lots of different roads to truth that we all negotiate together in our sandals with our ponytails.
Ad hominem,
Right? I don't believe that. I believe that there is one truth.
What's the clock?
And that is the Christian
I'm not reading.
faith, ladies and gentlemen. I've got 30 seconds left.
It's got 30
And so
seconds of
under
this.
those doctrines and values, I believe everyone should be judged by the same law. And so if a Christian misrepresents or blasphemes the Christian faith in public or in a place owned by the state, they should receive the same punishment as anyone else. But if they do it in private property that they own, that is theirs, it has nothing to do with the state to interfere in their speech. Now I'm done. So he can have the remainder of my time plus his 2 minutes.
I don't want to poach any time. I want fairness. I'm always for fairness, okay? I'll take my 2 minutes. I'm not sure I got the last thing Bob said. I have to ask him to rewind it because I was so focused on the first thing Bob said. You can play this back and check. Bob's argument is fallacious. You can check it. His argument is my whole position is based on the premise that I believe all religions are equal, yeah? And he's saying that because he knows I'm a universalist, yeah? And I am a universalist. However, that is not the premise for this particular argument. This particular argument, my motive and my premise is I'm in favor of free speech, which means I don't think, for example, Scientology falls inside the category of religions I respect. I don't think Satanism falls inside the category of religions I respect as a universalist. I think the mainstream ones do, Judaism, Christianity, Buddhism, Islam, etc. They've all got enough good stuff mixed in with the dodgy stuff that they've got some real merit. But there's other bullshit religions out there as well, okay? So don't assume that as a universalist I support all religions as equal, because I do not. Nevertheless, I do think that a Scientologist should be allowed, a religion I don't support, should be allowed to come up and advocate for itself with the same latitude and freedom of language as any other religion, and then I will condemn it on a public platform and demonstrate to a watching audience why its assertions are fallacious. But you can't have those constructive discussions unless you let people express the ideas equally. It's a political point I'm making, not a spiritual one. Bob's previous assertion is demonstrably wrong. He should now retract it and realise that genuinely I'm coming from a political platform, not a spiritual one on this particular topic. And also, I'm not using the level of ad hominems Bob's using. If he wants to continue, he can. I'm not going to use them. But again, note that technique. All right? I think I finished early. Bob, have my time. I'm being generous.
Right, thank you. I'll have just my normal 2 minutes then. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's be clear. The reality is that if you are saying that all truth claims should be on the same platform, you're working from liberalism. Because liberalism is what teaches that all religions should be treated equally to freely express. Why does liberalism do that? Liberalism does that because it says that they are all equally valid. The fact that my universalist friend doesn't understand the basis of his own argument, the root of his own defense of free speech, is not my problem. Liberalism teaches free speech for all religions because all religions could be equally true or equally false. All religions are equal in dignity, equally valid. All spiritual journeys are equal in their spiritual journey. That's his position, whether he's willing to acknowledge it or not, ladies and gentlemen. However, I don't agree. I don't agree that you can put a religion that is advocating slavery on par with a religion that is not. The reason why we should have blasphemy laws to defend the Christian faith is because the Christian faith is the truth from which we should draw to feed our culture, to feed our politics, to feed our economic practices, to feed our social practices. And so, to nourish ourselves with nutrients, we need to make sure that those nutrients are not spoiled by poison. And ridicule and mocking and blasphemy and lying about the truth is poison.
Great. Are we on time? Are we on time?
Go on.
Okay, fine. Again, rewind the tape. Bob just ignored everything I just said. I made it very clear I don't think all religions have equal merit. I thought I expressed that in very clear English in a way that the audience understood, but for some reason it didn't penetrate into Bob's head, and he just reiterated the mantra that I think all religions are equal, which I do not. What I do think should be equal is everyone's ability to express their opinions in an arena of debate so that you can discriminate strong arguments from weak arguments. That's the first point. Second point, apart from the ad hominems again, a little bit less, but thank you. The argument that, for example, Islam incites some practice on slavery, etc. Yeah, I already agree there's some bad stuff in religions. So there is within Christianity, and I will quote to you now in my time, Samuel 1, book 15.3. Now go attack the unbelievers and totally destroy all that belongs to them. Do not spare them, put to death men, women, children, infants, cattle, sheep, camels, donkeys, and keep the virgins alive for yourselves, okay? So, as a universalist who has a lot of sympathy with Christianity and Islam, I am aware that within both of their texts, you will find some very detrimental things. I don't automatically conclude from that personally, and now I am speaking as a universalist, that they are automatically negative religions. I just think they've got to filter out the wheat from the chaff, okay? But I hope Bob will accept as a point of fact, Samuel 1, book 15.3, does indeed say that. It does, doesn't it, Bob? All yours.
Right, I'll have the remainder of his time in my 2 minutes. So 2 minutes, 30 seconds. Right, so firstly, I don't want to get into a bitch slapping argument where it's like he said, she said kind of argument. But notice the passive aggressive put downs. It's a very middle class sort of sniping, snobbery way to talk down at someone. But yet, he complains about ad hominems, even though there has not been a single ad hominem.
Just my question.
I have not ad hominem. There's been no ad hominem. Also notice how he interrupts. So if he wants to talk about decorum, I'll just leave those at his door. Also, he uses a poor translation of the text. It doesn't say unbeliever. It says Amekalite. Is what it actually says, and he used a deliberately misleading text. Because by using a misleading text that says unbeliever, it makes it sound like we Christians would justify that against any unbeliever. But it's not that. The actual text that he has misquoted to you says Amalekites. In other words, it was a specific judgment on a specific nation. It is not applicable today. And we Christians have this covenantal system that he has just ignored completely, showing that he's a very poor student of Christianity. Furthermore, he says that all religions have good and bad in them, and we should just filter out what's the good and what's the bad. But who gets to decide that? Him? And based on what authority? His? No, ladies and gentlemen. This kind of universalist claptrap is basically trying to recast all religions according to the one true religion of him, which is the universalist religion of humanity. That's his real religion. The religion of humanity, which is connected to liberalism, which is the philosophy that he is drawing from for his free speech. The reason why liberals allow free debate between religions so that you can see what's good and bad ideas is because they assume that all religions are equally invalid. All religions are equally subject to rationalism and rational debate. And that's the religion that he's drawing from. He just doesn't recognize his own assumptions and assertions. I reject them, and so my case stands.
Great. So, Bob, you'll notice he chucked in some more ad hominems, middle class, blah, blah, blah. He chucked in some labels as though liberal is per se a bad thing.
He said, carry on.
Judge then, he said, she said, no.
Get with the argument.
And interrupting, he's now interrupting.
But you were okay with interrupting. But you were okay with interrupting.
You didn't address my question.
But you were okay with interrupting.
Okay, we can do this out of
Do you want to do the interruption, or shall we stop next time?
I'll carry on and he can
Would you like your next 2 minutes to be without interruption?
So Bob did.
Would you like your next 2 minutes to be without interruption?
Bob decided to take issue with what I said. Apparently, I got the word unbelievers wrong. I apologise, okay? What I believe I got right was the assertion.
So you're going to take it out?
The prescription.
You won't quote that again?
Fine. No, I'll totally quote it. I'll just change it to Amalek. No, excuse me. I'll just change the word to Amaleks. The words I was objecting to was the notion, I repeat, of do not spare the men, the women, the children, the infants, the cattle, and the sheep. Now, I don't care what tribe of human beings they are, be they unbelievers or Amaleks. In my book, that's probably, not definitely, but probably pretty appalling behaviour, particularly killing infants, yeah? You might be able to argue, if you're really extreme, that women, men, and even children have got to make some choices during their lives they may be held accountable for. But by any ethical logic I understand, an infant hasn't even yet made any conscious decisions. It cannot possibly be held accountable for transgressions. Now that should be morally abhorrent to any reasonable thinking person. The fact that one would defend it on the basis that unbelievers means Amalek,
30 seconds.
okay?
30 seconds.
That unbelievers is Amalek is just a disingenuous way of misdirecting your attention to the thrust of the thing. I repeat, there are negatives in a lot of religions. Also, I don't uphold all religions, I made it clear. Scientology and various other religions are clearly bullshit. Okay? I don't hold them with equal platform, but I think they should have equal free speech, so we can castigate them and publicly destroy them logically in good faith. And he says, who gets to choose? Me? No, you get to choose. He's making out I choose. You get to choose.
But except that he did make a choice. He said Scientology is shit. He said, what was the other religion that he said was shit? I think it was Mormonism. Satanism. He said Satanism was shit. Right? So, in other words, what he's saying is, you can't judge Islam as shit, but I can judge Scientology as shit, and I can judge Satanism as shit, but I don't think Islam is shit. Oh, I'm sorry, I think that saying slavery should be reintroduced is a pretty shit thing to say.
Yeah.
I think that child marriage is a pretty shit thing to advocate. So why is it that he's saying that Islam is one of those religions that he respects? Because there's some good stuff in it.
Yeah.
Well, funnily enough, there's some good things in Satanism, depending on which version of Satanism you believe in. Because some Satanists, some branches of Satanism are indistinguishable from Universalists. They're indistinguishable. They're just humanists that call themselves Satanists. And so the reality is, he is not willing to accept that the foundations of his argument is rooted in humanism. And he's using humanism as the touchstone and liberal philosophy as the touchstone by which to make all of his argument.
Terrible.
That liberalism, and I'm going to ask him this question. I want to ask him a question.
Please.
That liberalism assumes that all religions are equally true or equally false. My question to him about his free speech argument, right, is why does he assume that in public debate we can find out what is shit and what is not? And what you're going to hear is reasoned debate, rationalism allows us to identify. Yeah, go on.
I don't mind if you want to finish your sentence. Carry on.
That rationalism allows us what to identify. He will make an unconscious appeal to humanism. So here, that was my question.
Okay, great. Bob's question seems to predicate on a prejudicial view of the word humanism and liberal and universalist, yeah?
Correct.
So these are prejudicial premises to what he's saying, okay? I don't consider these to be negatives, but it's not the point. Play the ball, not the man. I do not think, for the third time of saying, Bob, and this is on tape, I do not think that all religions have equal merit.
Not what I said.
Okay? Okay, it seems to be implied. Good. So you understand then, I do not believe all religions have equal merit, don't you?
You believe that all of them are equally dismeritorious?
No.
There isn't a truth?
I believe there is a hierarchy of merit to different religions.
Do you want to answer the question?
Okay. I'm answering the question.
What was the question?
And we're on my tongue. I do not believe that all religions have equal merit. I believe there is a hierarchy of which religions on any given point are probably better. I think Christianity has advantages over Islam in certain arenas, okay? I think in other arenas not so much, but I think we have to discuss these things in open discourse. If you've got a better mechanism, the job here is to work out ultimately, what do you personally believe? What are you going to stake your personal soul on? That isn't for me to decide for you. That isn't for Bob to decide for you. That's between you and God. Our job,
Not
I
answering
think,
the question.
is to give you the best chance to make an informed decision with your conscience and your relationship to God by giving the best rational arguments we can in good faith.
Still haven't answered the question.
Rationality will not cover the whole thing. You've got to go deep, you've got to go into issues of faith, good conscience, etc. But there are rational levels to this debate which you should get to engage with in open media on a level playing field. That's what I advocate for your benefit. For your benefit. Go on.
Right, I'll use the remainder of his time, please. 10 seconds, so 2 minutes, 10 seconds. Right, did you hear the answer to the question? The question was, why does rational debate allow us to decide, to filter out what is the good and what is the bad? What is it about rational debate that allows us to do that? So, we are seeing that what I am trying to demonstrate to my friend is that I have correctly identified his assumptions. His assumptions are humanist. That's his real religion. And any religion within humanism can be good or bad, equally good or bad, depending on how well they adopt themselves to humanism. Okay? Let's move the debate on from the earlier statement. Because if you're treating all religions as the same, you are practically saying they are all equally the same. I am saying that they are not all equally the same and therefore should not be treated equally the same. So even if you don't want to admit it philosophically, practically, it works out to what I've accused you of treating them all the same. So therefore, you are acting as if they are all the same. But you personally may not like Satanism. You personally may not like Scientology. But you're saying publicly they should be treated the same, whilst challenging me when I'm saying that they shouldn't be. And I am defending the premise that they shouldn't be based on the fact that I actually believe there is a real truth, and that real truth is not humanism. And the real way to find truth is not in rational debate alone, because rationalism always sits within a cultural context. It doesn't sit in a vacuum, it doesn't work in a vacuum. It was born in cultures and reasons and rationalizes from certain unsaid assumptions. And so it is not sufficient for us, I've got 2 minutes and 10 seconds. It is not sufficient for us to identify truth. We must use revelation, and therefore we've got to ask the question, what revelation do we use?
Okay. Bob said, he seems to be implying I don't think there is such a thing as the truth. I do. And I repeat for the fourth time, really re-watch this and notice how much is ignoring what I'm saying. Even though I keep saying I think different religions have different merit, that I discard some of them, they exist in a value hierarchy, he still keeps falling back on some ridiculous platitude, which is that I still think all religions are equal. No. In terms of their metaphysical merit, their ethical merit, their teleological merit, no, I do not. That is not my point. The point that I'm making in this instance is political. He's turning this into a spiritual discussion. This is about politics. So let me just paraphrase this in a different way. I believe that the Conservatives and Labour and Reform and the Green Party and any other political party you care to mention should be given an equal platform to advocate its position short of incitement to violence. I would hope Bob would agree with that. And that is my reason for arguing in this case the same thing. For exactly the same reasons, I should let the Reform Party and the Communist Party get up and promote their views. For exactly that same reason, I think a number of religions, including those I totally disagree with, should be allowed an equal platform to get out and advocate, so that viewers can make an informed choice and vote in a democracy with regard to politics. And so with regard to the religions, they can stake their soul on what they honestly think is the best bet. That's all I'm talking about. And if you can't grasp that distinction, that this is a political arena right now I'm debating within, even though I happen to be a spiritual universalist, then I don't know how else to communicate that point to you, but I think your viewers can see I've done everything I can to communicate that very simple point. Now, can you kindly take it on board?
10 seconds.
I'm done early. Go on.
2 minutes and 10 seconds.
Yeah, sorry, you've
2
got
minutes
stuck
and
with.
could you do
Can
timing?
someone take the clock?
I need someone to do. Yeah, thanks
Thank
very
you
much.
very much, Chris.
Good to see you, Christian. Hope you're well.
Thanks, Chris. I'll see you in a bit.
Maybe we'll get a chance to talk again.
I'll see you in a bit.
Yeah? You can quote me more of your essay. Right, 2 minutes and 10 seconds for me. Let's be clear. you cannot separate politics from religion. Your political doctrines will depend, your political assertions or goals will depend upon the doctrines that you interpret the world by and the values that you interpret the world by, and they will be based upon the metaphysical narrative by which you interpret your life and the world around you. So I am not wrong to recognize that this is a spiritual conversation. I do not accept that there is a distinction between the spiritual and the political. I wish he would stop asserting that I should assume as he assumes and that I should just adopt the presuppositions of his humanist religion. I don't. I reject them. And so I reject his description of this conversation. Furthermore, the conversation was about free speech, and I said quite clearly in political questions, social, cultural, economic problems, I agree with the maximum amount of free speech. What I disagreed with is the idea that you could lie about Christianity or blaspheme the Christian God in public or in any building owned by the state. I wish he had listened to my argument. Because on political discourse, let all the parties debate. But here's the difference. I don't believe, because I am not ignorant, that Muslims should be free to takfir one another. That Muslims should be free to advocate for the apostasy laws, or for religious apartheid, or for slavery, or for child marriage, or for cousin marriage. But he does. And ladies and gentlemen, he's making personal judgments about different religions. But he's saying that the state should treat them as all the same. And that's the point that's in dispute. Because I'm saying the state should not treat them as all the same.
We're on time. Right. I don't know, Bob's doing the same game he did before. You can either clock that or you can't. I've done my best. However, he finally gave... Oh, let me think this through. I don't think I've still got a clear answer to the question on blasphemy. If you think blasphemy against Christianity should be the same as blasphemy against another religion. I'm happy. If you want to have a rule which says you can't blaspheme Christianity, then you shouldn't be able to blaspheme another religion as well. I think that's fair. I think Christ would approve of that. Bob has raised a couple of points where I'm actually going to vaguely join his team, because I always try and be objective and I try and steel man. I have particular problems within Islam with the apostasy laws. I have problems with if they have ideas about child marriage. I think one might be able to argue that advocating for apostasy constitutes advocating for incitement to violence, yeah, if we're talking about retaliation against people who've left the religion, and that therefore maybe that shouldn't fall within the remit of free speech, okay? However, that was not the original way I phrased my question. The original way I phrased my question was very simple. Do you think that the religion should be able to advocate and promote itself in a way which didn't involve incitement? That was my question. And I'd like a clear answer to that, okay? Should it be able to advocate for itself in a way which doesn't promote incitement on an equal platform with other religions, even though I've already made it clear I don't agree with all these religions? I'm asking for the same political platform you expect for your political parties. That's all. You don't start, so I don't happen to like the Reform Party, okay? But I wouldn't dream of trying to curtail some of the stupid shit they say in public. They can say it and I'll respond to it, all right? So Bob, short of incitement, are you okay with a level playing field for all religions in a free-speaking democracy? Please answer. Clearly.
Right, I'll use whatever time he's left. How much time did he leave me? Right, I'll have 2 minutes and 5 seconds then. Right, so ladies and gentlemen, unfortunately, he's very good at trying to suggest that I don't listen, but he clearly has not been listening. Because he comes and he captures these cameras because he wants to appear on camera. But, ladies and gentlemen, let's be clear. I said right at the very start of the debate that I do want a world in which no religion can blaspheme against the Christian faith. I said quite clearly that if someone wanted to advocate their religion, so long as they did not lie about the Christian faith, that they did not blaspheme against the Christian faith, they could do so. that people would be free to criticize Christianity if they said things like, I don't believe in the Trinity. I know you believe in one God in three persons, but I don't believe in that. And they should be free to do that. But what they shouldn't be free to do is say, you believe in three gods, you polytheist Christian. What I don't believe that they should be able to do is to take a Bible and desecrate it in public, or the sacrament of the Eucharist and desecrate it in public. I believe that that should be against the law. So clearly, very clearly, I have stated a barrier that is beyond mere incitement, but I do also include incitement as well, ladies and gentlemen. So he needs to listen to what I'm saying. But notice now he's introduced his own blasphemy law. His blasphemy law is incitement. And I agree with his blasphemy law. But why does he get to decide where the barriers of free speech are and not us? What makes his opinion superior to ours? Why does he get to decide you can say everything bar this, but we Christians can't say you can say everything bar this? Whose authority is it appealing to? I'm appealing to the authority of the prophets and the apostles and Jesus Christ himself, who he deliberately misrepresents continuously. Jesus believed in the blasphemy laws of the Old Testament.
Apparently on time. Okay, apparently I'm inventing my own blasphemy laws. Bob seems unaware that incitement is currently in the statute against the law. Okay? So please note that he consistently makes really illogical assertions. Incitement is currently against the law. I haven't invented it as a blasphemy law. I think I've now asked him 3 or 4 times and I haven't had a clear answer. Do you believe that you should, if it was illegal to blaspheme against Christianity, it should be equally illegal to blaspheme against another religion?
I've answered that.
But no, he hasn't. What he has answered, play back the tape and check it. He's consistently answered what the law should be for Christianity. He hasn't answered whether it should be equal for other religions. Now that's a very clear question in English using very short syllables that I've repeated numerous times. And you fact check, just play it back and have a look and see if he actually addressed that. He didn't. Am I on time?
1 minute.
I've got 1 minute. Seeing as this is the last round, I don't know. Look, I like to... When I debate people, I try and find common ground wherever possible, okay? Because I think you move forward best when you can find things you can agree on. And I'm trying right now to think of anything Bob and I actually agree on so we can end on a hopefully civil and I would argue Christian note. Any ideas, Bob? I mean, how do we close this down in a civil fashion? That's my question to you. I'd like to do that. How do we do that?
Are you conceding your time?
Yeah, I'll concede my time on that point.
All right, so I'll use whatever. How long's he got left?
20 seconds.
I'll have 2 minutes, 20 seconds. Right, so let's be clear. I've stated very clearly, that I believe in a Christian blasphemy law. And I believe that that Christian blasphemy law should be applied equally to everyone. So if a Christian blasphemes against the Christian God, he should be punished in exactly the same way that anyone else should be punished. The laws that we have are defined by the philosophy or the theology that we follow. That is what we are doing when we redefine the family to include 2 men and 2 women. When we redefine marriage to include homosexual couples, we are redefining the law according to our philosophy. So you can't separate questions of law from questions of metaphysics. That's the point. That's why this is a spiritual conversation. And theologically, I believe in a blasphemy law. And that should be applied to everybody equally, regardless of their religion. But I said very clearly, and he was not listening, is that Islam is not the truth, and therefore it does not deserve protection in law. It only deserves protection in good taste. And if this man had listened from the very beginning, he would have picked that up in the first 10 minutes of the conversation.
Said it clearly,
but he was too busy being a patronising snob with his passive-aggressive comments.
Check the tape.
I lost a lot of respect for this guy. I lost a lot of respect for this guy on the Tommy Robinson Boston March when I was having a conversation with someone and he forced his way into the conversation. Ignorantly and rudely forced his way into a conversation where everyone in the group said that he was not welcome, and he didn't respect their decision not to include him, and he forced his way into the conversation. So don't allow him to present himself hypocritically like some tolerant person. Thank you for admitting that he was forcing his way into the conversation, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for admitting that I'm not lying about you, and that is what you did. Right.
That's it.
Okay, he still didn't
Have a
answer
good
the
day.
question.
I did. Have a good day.
He
Take care.
still didn't answer
I really
the
did.
question
Right.
about how
Have
you
a
should
good
treat
day.
other religions.
Have a good day.
No, you can't be polite.
Right.
You don't know how to be polite.
I'm going to do my own thing now.
Polite.
I'm going to.
You don't have
Bro,
to be
I
polite.
lost all respect for you when you forced your way into that conversation.
Well, then you should-
everyone in that
then you
group,
shouldn't have debated
everyone in
me
that
now.
group,
I got on
everyone in
fine
that
with the
group
guys in
said that they didn't want you in that
Wrong.
conversation,
Wrong. I
and like
sat
the
down
self-righteous
and I had a
ass that you
perfectly
are,
good chat with
you
them,
forced
and
your
we
way
got on
into that
just great.
conversation,
Not at all.
and now you're acting.
Bullshit.
Now you're acting
Bullshit.
like, oh, I
Okay, wait,
believe in
wait.
freedom of
Okay.
expression.
Now you've
People
got
didn't
your
want that.
clickbait.
Now
you've got your clickbait.
that's when I lost respect for you
This
that
is
day.
what?
That's when I lost
These
respect for
guys
you.
have-
Because you're an egotist.
These guys-
You're an egotist who
He's
can't
making
respect
money. These guys
people
are
making a
making
choice
money.
that
I
they
don't have a
did
channel.
not want you
I'm
to
not
be
making
there.
any money.
They did not want
These
you to
guys
be
are
there.
making money
And that's why I lost respect for you
and
that
he
day.
doesn't know how to end the
So,
conversation
right.
politely.
I'm going
Okay?
to go on and do my own thing now.
Please go
I'm
and
going to
do
go
your
on
own
and do my
petty
own
little
thing.
thing.
Yeah. There you go. Passive-aggressive BS.
Okay.
You petty little thing. The mask drops, ladies and gentlemen. The mask drops. Because this is humanist progressive liberalism. I am better than you. I look down upon you. I am Mr. Tolerant. I am Mr. Inclusive. I am Mr. Universalist.
I'm not
But
better
if
than
you
you,
don't
Bob,
say what I like,
my
well, you're just a petty little person.
Are definitely
You
better
did
than
no.
his.
Anyway,
I'm not better than him.
ladies
All
and
souls are
gentlemen,
equal.
ladies
But
and gentlemen,
my arguments are so
I want
much
to go
better.
on and talk about
If
something
you want to keep
more
listening to this
edifying
hot air
and
all the
more
time,
important than this.
clickbait.
That's why you're still
Clickbait.
studying. It is Trump. I am going to talk about Trump.
I saw this. We'll stand here.